James McGuire, and our topic today is cloud computing, things you can do to improve your cloud deployment, to issues to be aware of. To talk about that, I'm joined by Jeff Burke, Director of Research and Development at Dell Boomi. Hey,
Great
Jeff, how are you doing today?
Good, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And you are there right around Philadelphia, correct?
That is correct. Yep, we're just west of the city of Philadelphia.
All right, looks like it's a sunny day in Philly today.
We're having a really nice day. So it's supposed to warm up a little bit. So we're excited to see a little bit more summer come back to us.
Now, I know that obviously everyone knows Dell, but could you give us kind of the 11-second elevator pitch of what exactly does Dell Boomi do?
Sure. So Dell Boomi sort of started its life as an independent company created outside of Philadelphia, and really it was built on the notion of integration. And a few years ago, Dell saw what Boomi was doing and thought, hey, this would be a nice solution given where the market's going and how the cloud's evolving to have in our portfolio. And so what we've done is we've come into Dell and we still maintain our business, and we sell it as a standalone separate solution. And really what Boomi is an integration platform as a service. And really what that means is we have a cloud native solution that allows you to connect cloud apps to existing middleware on-prem, so cloud to ground. So really you can use Boomi to connect all those things that you care about to enable your business.
Right, okay, makes sense. So, I mean, given your position, I'm assuming you've seen a lot of companies deal with getting onto the cloud, expanding your cloud deployment. I'm wondering what sort of advice you would give to companies that want to expand their cloud deployment or improve it, and in particular, what sort of pain points have you seen out there? What sort of challenges are businesses dealing with in the cloud, in your eyes?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. It's been, I think in the last, 18 months, it's really been an interesting and very fast cycle, right? And I think 18 months ago, we were hearing a lot of concern about, traditional things like security, scale, and those pieces, which, when you're on-prem, you sort of can wrap your arms around that, and there's a comfort to knowing that those things are living within your own sort of footprint.
Right.
And I think over the last 18 months or so, it's really those cloud solutions and the value they offer. They've also started to earn the trust, I think, of corporate IT. And so, as in a lot of cases, the cloud offers sort of a more secure footprint because of the visibility and the number of people contributing to ensuring that security is in place.
Right.
So I think the biggest challenge that a lot of folks face is, one, overcoming that initial hesitation of moving from on-prem to trusting an important part of your business with a cloud service provider. But I think the value proposition is become really compelling to a lot of businesses. I think the other challenge sometimes is once you kind of get your cloud infrastructure in place, now we're seeing a lot of conversation about cost.
Right.
Mostly because there's a whole cloud enablement ecosystem which is really focused on saying, listen, if you have an instance running, say, at AWS, let's make sure that instance is only up and running when I need to use it, right? We don't want to, it's kind of like keeping the lights on at home when nobody's in the room. So I think that's been something that we're starting to see as well. So it's really just getting a good plan around what you want to accomplish and what technologies help you accomplish that, whether it's a mix, it's a hybrid on-prem and cloud or all cloud. It doesn't change the traditional success factors for running a project. You have to sort of know what you want to do, make sure you're driving to those outcomes.
It's interesting you mentioned the security piece. It seems like several years back there was a sense of, well, we can't go to the cloud, it's going to be less secure. But I sense there's a general agreement now that the cloud, ironically, tends to be more secure because it's, there is, as you mentioned, so much focus on security in it. And we see all the headlines about data breaches. I mean, so many IT data centers have been breached. We don't hear much about cloud centers being breached. It's almost as if cloud is more secure than in-house at this point.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And I think when the lineage of those cloud providers, they kind of take an approach that, it's security as code, right? So everything that they built, right, as they've moved into that space, they're taking a security first approach in what they built, right? So I think, it's harder when you've been on-prem and you have infrastructure that you've been carrying forward for 15, 20 years.
Right.
You have the traditional day-to-day business pressures. Now as security rises, there's a concern, but it wasn't necessarily layered into your application in a lot of scenarios from day one. And I think when you see those cloud providers, those are some of the things that they were focused on in the initial days of building a solution, and they've benefited from that.
Right. And one other thing about the cost issue, it seems like there was, again, a sense a few years back, like, well, maybe we're going to save money in the cloud, maybe we're not, or, hopefully we will. But there's a sense now that there's all these tools that are enabled by going on to a major cloud provider that you couldn't necessarily create in-house. So it's like whether or not we can be in-house or in the cloud, we need to be in the cloud because there's AI tools, there's all
Right.
sorts of other tools that we need to access, and we can only access, we can't build them in-house, we can only access them in the cloud. So like the cloud might be more expensive. In fact, it probably is for many folks, but it enables a competitive tool set that you can't do in-house. Is that your sense of it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fair statement. I think it can act as a force multiplier, right? Because you, in a sense, have a really tight feedback loop as well. If you talk about some of the major cloud providers, they have to service a number of disparate needs and wants and asks, and they're in a really interesting position because they can sort of pull all those things together, look at trends, and then move solutions forward to address those trends. And I know a lot of folks, again, in a traditional in a business, they're working through the day-to-day challenges, and I think we see a lot of this sort of in the innovator's dilemma model, right? Like you get a little bit sort of consumed by what you're trying to do to just drive your business forward, and then being able to sort of step outside of that and innovate can be a challenge. And I think the cloud offers sort of that almost like a crowdsourced innovation model that is really accessible and that you can take advantage of.
It's an interesting way to look at the cloud, the cloud, a crowdsourced innovation model. I'm gonna have to use that phrase.
I haven't trademarked it yet, so.
Good. It's still. I'm gonna tweet it. I'll act as if it's mine. It's a really cool phrase. So, what can a company? What can an integration platform do for a company? Why would they need that? And how could that really help a company in the cloud?
Yeah, right. So I think the biggest thing is so many businesses have all this really awesome information trapped in silos within their business. And the traditional way to kind of get after that would be to write some software to go pull data out of one place and drop it into another place. And a lot of that is what we call sort of point-to-point integration, where I had a system of record A, and then I'm trying to move it over to another solution, maybe for HR, and I'm actually asking my developers to write code to solve that problem. And with the solutions that are evolving, sort of the cloud native solutions, and also some of the on-prem stuff, that's a problem you want to, I think, solve one time. And I think the beauty of Boomi is that through our connector model, we offer you sort of an API to those systems without having to invent that all of the time, right? So what you're able to do is leverage all of our customers and their experiences as we've built these connectors. And you can grab that connector, and if you want to like connect to Salesforce to something like a database on-prem, maybe it's a MySQL instance or something, you can do that in sort of the scale of hours and minutes versus like days and weeks. And we've seen that really be compelling and really sort of help a lot of our customers move their business forward and just sort of do the things they need to do by way of integration, and then unleash those developers on the really hard problems that they need to be working on to drive innovation.
Right, like don't rebuild the wheel there. Just use some stuff that's already been created if that'll do the job for you.
Correct.
Yeah. So I'm interested too, like what you see going forward in the cloud, whether it's everything is a multi-cloud world or it's a hybrid cloud world. If private cloud will survive, there's AI in the cloud, there's edge. What say in the next, say, 12, 18 months, what do you see really happening in cloud computing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the hybrid trend will continue. I think that people, as they look at what problems they're trying to solve, I think more and more that they're sort of triangulating between the cost benefit piece that we were just chatting about, versus the on-prem, cost, and do I have the expertise? So do I get economies of skill that I can use on-prem or cloud? So I think people will continue to sort of triangulate between those key pillars in sort of their decision making.
You mean without settling on one necessarily at this point?
Correct.
Okay.
That's right. Like you don't want to go hunting with an accordion, right? You want to find the right tool for the right job,
right,
and make sure that you're making responsible decisions for that. So I think hybrid cloud will continue to evolve, and we'll see a lot of continued energy and traction around solutions to try to make your private, your public connect and work well. I think that also as we see that in those networks and those sort of fabrics grow, I do think we'll see a lot more move to the edge. I think just given the amount of information and data that's particularly with devices, when we talk about IoT and how chatty and how frequent those devices will be pumping out information,
Right.
to actually sort of think of it in a traditional model of going out, grabbing all of that and pulling it back to a central location to process,
Right.
I think that becomes almost, it becomes very difficult in that type of model. So I think if we can offload work to the edge, maybe massage or work that data and then bring some of those results back to a central location, I think that's a more efficient and effective way to deal with those scenarios.
Yeah, just on that point, it's really interesting whether the processing will happen at the edge or back at home base. And do you think that sense that more and more of the processing is going to happen at the edge, is that happening, or is that more as like just we hope it's going to happen sometime soon?
No, I think, with Boomi, what's really kind of interesting about how we designed our solution is we have sort of the platform where the folks come in and they can build their integrations, right? And it looks a lot like tools that you've used in the past, point and click. I sort of draw a line between two systems, map fields, all of that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when I create that integration, we have a couple of different runtime options, right? So say I've built that integration. It's all based on our infrastructure. We have what we call the atom sphere, and we have this notion of an atom, which is really a runtime environment for those integrations.
Mm-hmm.
And those atoms can be installed on devices, right? They can be installed on computers on the edge. We have our own atom cloud. They can be up in a private or public cloud. But they all know about each other. They know how to talk to each other. And I think when you think about that and where people are going in those edge computing scenarios, we see that as a really a great model going forward, not just because it's innate to the platform, but I feel like we saw that trend, and it's an important trend. So we are seeing that happen. I mean, people have a lot of compute power in their ecosystem, and it to take advantage and use that it makes good sense, right? You don't want to leave that compute power idle when you can actually grab cycles on it, do that processing, and then pull it back. So I think it distributes the load and sort of is the best of both worlds.
Yeah. Jeff, you said a lot of good stuff. Is there anything else you want to add about the future of cloud before we wrap up today?
No, I think it's a really awesome time to be innovating in this space. I think that the cycle times sort of keep speeding up. So for folks that are out there looking for solutions, I mean, I think every other day you're seeing something really awesome at scale that can help your business. And we think Boomi is one of those solutions, but we're really excited about what the future holds.
All right, Jeff, thank you very much. I'll send you the link when we're all done. We can tweet it, and appreciate your expertise.
Fantastic. It was great being with you today. Thank you.